Natalie had never been in love like this before. From the very first night she met Damien at that rooftop art gallery, something clicked. He was charming, disarming, and the kind of man who remembered small things, like how she took her coffee or that she hated the sound of people chewing gum. By the third date, he was already talking about forever. By the sixth, he had a key to her apartment. He said he was in transition with his business, a high-end European consulting firm that kept him traveling often, but promised that once the New York office was settled, he'd be fully hers. She believed him. Why wouldn't she? He was older, yes, 43 to her 31, but it only made him more composed, more decisive. Natalie, who had dated a parade of unfinished men in her 20s, found his maturity refreshing. He made her feel seen, protected, adored. Their life was almost too perfect. Their Saturday rituals, late brunches in the West Village, flea markets in Brooklyn, wine nights in her living room while he read old books aloud in his deep theatrical voice. And then, one night in mid-February, he gave her a gift, a small red velvet box. Inside it was a delicate bracelet, rose gold, with a single tiny diamond at the center. Not an engagement, he said, smiling, but a promise. Her heart melted. She kissed him for minutes before whispering, "I've never been this sure about anyone." He held her hand and looked into her eyes. "Me too." But 2 weeks later, he disappeared. No texts, no calls, nothing. At first, she panicked. Tried his number, disconnected. Emailed him, undeliverable. She even went to the apartment he claimed to be renting temporarily on the Upper East Side. No one had ever heard of him. Her friends told her maybe he had ghosted her. Maybe he had cold feet. Maybe he wasn't who he said he was. But Natalie wasn't ready to accept that. So she started looking, digging, asking. She started with the consulting company he claimed to work for, Kordax Group. She found their website, a luxurious corporate landing page with empty words like innovation, integrity, global solutions. She called their listed number, expecting an automated menu. Instead, a receptionist picked up. "Kordax Group, this is Lana speaking." "Hi, yes, is Damien St. Clair available?" she asked, voice tight with hope. A pause. "I'm sorry, ma'am. Who?" "Damien St. Clair. I think he works in private strategy. I'm afraid there's no one here by that name." Silence. "Are you sure? Maybe." "I've been here 6 years," the woman said firmly. "I know all of our leadership. We've never had a Damien St. Clair." Click. Natalie stared at the wall, stunned. The name was fake. The job was fake. Everything, every single beautiful moment, was built on a lie. She wanted to scream, to cry, to punch something, but her rage was frozen inside her like ice. Instead, she went to her dresser, took out the velvet box with the bracelet, and held it in her hand. There was a tiny card tucked under the lining she'd never noticed before. A handwritten message in that familiar sharp cursive. "To N. You are a secret I never wanted to keep." She froze. Why hide that note? What was he hiding her from? Her or someone else? She took out her laptop and typed into Google, "Damien St. Clair, plus married, Damien St. Clair, plus wife." And there it was, a link to a photo gallery from a private event. An engagement celebration for Mr. Damien S. Clair and Dr. Alina Clair at the Metropolitan Club. The photo loaded slowly, but when it did, there he was. In a black tux, smiling, arm in arm with a woman in a white satin dress, and behind them, a crowd of well-dressed strangers applauding. She stared at the screen for a full minute, unblinking. Then she whispered, "You son of a bitch!" Natalie couldn't sleep. Her mind kept replaying the image of Damien in that photo, his arm wrapped around his fiancé, his smile wider than any he had ever given her. Every "I love you," every "you're the only one." All of it had been scripted lies from a man who had mastered the role of a double life. But what haunted her most was not the lie. It was how close she had come to believing he was her future. She spent the night researching everything she could find about Dr. Alina Clare. The woman was a cardiologist, graduated top of her class from Duke, worked at a private clinic on Park Avenue, frequently published, well respected, and, according to several social posts, they had been together for nearly 4 years. 4 years. So when Damien was taking Natalie to brunch, he was sending Alina flowers. When he was in Natalie's bed, he was telling Alina he was on business trips. She wanted to scream, but instead, she poured another cup of coffee, sat at her computer, and clicked Schedule Consultation. On the clinic's website, she gave a fake name, picked a random heart-related symptom, and chose the soonest appointment available. She had a plan. She was going to meet the other wife. 2 days later, Natalie sat in the lobby of the Park Avenue Cardiology Institute, her hair tied back, eyes hidden behind large sunglasses. She wore a beige coat, clean makeup, nothing that called attention. The receptionist smiled. "Miss Evans, Dr. Clare will see you now." Natalie stood, her heart pounding. She didn't know exactly what she was going to say. She just knew she had to look her in the eye. The office was modern, polished, and there she was. Alina Clare, stunning, composed, graceful. In her early 40s, but flawlessly aged. She had a voice like calm water and eyes that said she'd seen everything. "Good morning. I'm Dr. Clare. What brings you in today?" Natalie sat, cleared her throat. "Palpitations." Alina nodded. "Stress-related?" "Yes." "Anything in particular causing it?" Natalie stared at her, a long silence. "Yes," she said, her voice low. "A man." Alina's smile faded just slightly. "Boyfriend?" Natalie nodded. "EX." "Recent breakup?" Another nod. Alina continued with the exam questions, taking notes, but Natalie could see she was paying closer attention now. Women recognize pain in other women. And then Natalie said, "He was seeing someone else the whole time, hiding her. A total double life." Alina looked up. "How long were you together?" "A year and a half." Alina blinked. Natalie smiled slightly. "Your engagement party looked beautiful, by the way." The room went silent. "Excuse me?" Alina said, her voice barely above a whisper. Natalie pulled her sunglasses off. "You don't know me, but I know him. I know Damien, and I think you deserve to know what he's been doing behind your back." Alina's face went white. Her hands froze mid-movement. Natalie opened her purse and took out a small flash drive. "Text messages, photos, audio clips. Everything you'll need to know that you're not crazy." Alina didn't reach for it. She just stared. "Why?" she asked. "Well, why are you telling me this?" Natalie stood up. "Because I wish someone had told me. And because I don't believe women should be left in the dark to clean up after liars." She placed the flash drive on the desk and walked out. That night, Natalie received a text from an unknown number. "I listened. I believe you. Meet me tomorrow. A." She stared at the screen. And for the first time in weeks, she smiled. The cafe was quiet, tucked away on a side street in Soho. The kind of place where people drank espressos and read hardcover books without pictures. Natalie sat at a corner table, eyes fixed on the door. At exactly 9 a.m., Alina walked in. She wore dark jeans, a black coat, and an expression that was neither warm nor cold. Just sharp. She sat down without a word. Natalie stirred her coffee. "I wasn't sure if you'd come." Alina took off her gloves slowly. "I wasn't sure either." A beat of silence passed between them. Then Alina pulled out her phone and slid it across the table. "Voicemails, texts, travel receipts. I compared dates with what you gave me. He was living 2 lives, exactly 2 lives." Natalie let out a slow breath. "I'm sorry," she said. "You didn't deserve this." Alina's eyes met hers. "Neither did you." They sat in that mutual understanding for a moment. 2 women who had been lied to, played, used, but who refused to be victims. "So," Alina said, leaning in. "What now?" Natalie smiled. "I have an idea." It started with a plan. Alina would pretend nothing had changed. She would continue communicating with Damien, pretending to be the clueless fiancé, while Natalie used her old messages to confront him from a new number under a fake name. She texted him, "We need to talk. Your past is catching up to you." He replied within 10 minutes. "Who is this? Someone you lied to, but you already know that." They set a time, a place, a hotel bar in Midtown where he used to meet her on business trips. The night arrived. Natalie sat at the bar, dressed in a classic black dress, her hair slicked back. Her makeup was flawless. Her face was calm. She looked untouchable. Damien arrived 20 minutes late, looking slightly unhinged. He had shaved, worn a new coat, but his eyes were nervous. He didn't recognize her right away until she looked up. "Hello, Damien." He froze. "Natalie? Didn't expect me?" She smiled coldly. "Surprise." He sat slowly, looking around. "What is this?" "It's a conversation you never had the decency to give me." "Natalie, look, I can explain." "No," she interrupted. "You can't. Because for every word you say, I have a document to disprove it." She took out a small envelope and slid it to him. Inside, printed emails, screenshots, a copy of the hotel receipts, timestamps, photos, evidence. His face went pale. "What do you want?" he asked quietly. Natalie sipped her drink. "Nothing. Just for you to know that I know." Behind them, a phone camera clicked. Damien turned just in time to see Alina walking away, unnoticed by others, but not by him. "Was that—" "Yes," Natalie said. "That was your fiancé, the real one." His lips parted, but no sound came out. "You should probably go after her," Natalie said, standing. "But if I were you, I wouldn't." She walked out, leaving him sitting alone with a stack of lies he couldn't rearrange fast enough. Later that night, Natalie and Alina met again. This time they shared a glass of wine. "He'll spin this," Alina said. "Make himself the victim." "Let him," Natalie replied. "We're not done yet." Alina raised an eyebrow. "We're not?" Natalie smiled. "No, we're going to ruin his life, not just emotionally, but professionally." And that was only the beginning. Days passed, then weeks. Damien was still trying to patch the holes, to reach out, to apologize, to clarify. He texted Alina every day, called Natalie twice from unknown numbers, tried to connect on LinkedIn, of all places. But the silence from both women was deafening. And while he stumbled through the aftermath, Natalie and Alina were busy. Alina, being a well-connected physician, had friends in high places. One in particular, a journalist at a prestigious online publication that specialized in behind the curtain, exposés, business fraud, financial schemes, scandals. And it just so happened that Damien's consulting company, which had no official records, no employee registry, and a suspiciously inactive website, was exactly the kind of story they loved to investigate. Natalie provided the timeline. The phony office he rented. The trips that never happened. The luxury charges on her card he swore he'd pay back. Emails from accounts that were impossible to verify. Alina, meanwhile, dug into their finances. Turns out, she had been paying for much of his travel expenses through their joint credit account. Everything was documented. When the journalist, Monica, met them at a wine bar in Upper Chelsea, she listened for 45 minutes before saying, "This guy is a fraudster. He's a pathological liar. And if I publish this, he won't be able to hide behind a suit again." Natalie took a sip of her Cabernet. "Good. Because suits don't make men. Actions do." The article went live 2 weeks later. The man who scammed 2 women and tried to build a career on lies. An inside look at Damien St. Clair, the consultant with no past, no firm, and no moral compass. The story went viral. LinkedIn exploded. Business forums discussed it. Recruiters blacklisted his name. And then, the emails started pouring in. Other women, other victims. One from Chicago, one from London, one from Dubai. All of them sharing similar stories. Smooth talking, romantic getaways, promises, and then vanishing acts with debt, confusion, and ghosted accounts left behind. The journalist added an addendum to the original article. Update. 7 more women have come forward. Some were pursuing legal action. Others just wanted to be heard. Damien, now publicly shamed, tried to disappear. He deleted his socials. His website was scrubbed. One day, his number went out of service entirely. But Natalie and Alina weren't looking for him anymore. They'd already won. One evening, Natalie received a package at her doorstep. No return label, just a small box. Inside, the rose gold bracelet Damien had given her. And a note. I never meant to hurt you. I didn't know how to be a better man. I'm sorry. No name. But she didn't need one. She walked out to her balcony, looked at the skyline. The same skyline that once held so much promise. She held the bracelet for a moment and dropped it into the night. 1 month later, life was quiet again. Or at least calmer. Natalie had returned to her routine, her job in design, her Tuesday night Pilates class, her Saturday morning coffee rituals. She wasn't checking her phone obsessively. She wasn't looking over her shoulder. She hadn't just moved on, she'd moved forward. Alina, too, was thriving. She'd taken a sabbatical from her practice, traveled to Iceland alone, started writing a book about emotional surgery, a healing process for women betrayed by men who wore masks. They still met sometimes, not out of need, but out of choice. 2 strangers once tied by lies, now friends who had reclaimed truth together. And then, on a quiet Thursday afternoon, Natalie received an email. The sender, Damien asked Claire, exposed, proton mail. The subject, the one thing I never told you. Her fingers froze on the trackpad. She stared at the subject line for a long time. A part of her wanted to delete it. But another part, the one that still needed to see it end, clicked. The message was short. Natalie, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve peace. But there was never a day I didn't think you were the one. I ruined it all because I never knew how to be honest. Not with you, not with her, not even with myself. I hope you never remember me for my worst. Even if that's all I left you with. D. No attachments, no photos, just words. Natalie closed her laptop. She didn't cry. She didn't respond. She stood up, walked to her window, and looked out at the city he'd once used to hide behind. She wasn't that girl anymore. The one who waited for answers. The one who doubted herself because someone else had no integrity. She was her own closure now. Later that week, she met Alina for brunch. They talked about stupid reality TV. About Alina's next trip, maybe Thailand. About Natalie's new illustration series on women who rewrite their stories. Neither of them brought up the email. But when the check arrived, Alina raised her glass. To the other wife, she said. Natalie smiled. To never be the other anything again. How did you find this story?